Tonight, Tropical Storm Gina moving slowly near Vanuatu. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for May 20th. It's good to be back making Tropical Weather Bulletins again. However, tonight we have Yakecan now back to being extratropical in the southern Atlantic and moving away from Brazil, as well as Tropical Storm Gina in the southern Pacific making its way near Vanuatu. Now clearly the southern hemisphere is not quite done yet, despite it being almost winter down there. For the moment, we remain unclassified on our Tropical Cyclone Operations Scale, that's TCOS for short, as the number of storms so far this year remains at 27. The Atlantic, or rather the northern Atlantic, remains devoid of any tropical activity, and it is not expected to show any signs of development between now and the next 5 days. Then again, this part of the planet still has 12 days to go before hurricane season starts over here. The Eastern Pacific is on day 6 of hurricane season. Once again, no activity is expected to show up between now and the next 5 days. Now, I'm sure this is a disappointing start for most people. On the other side of the Pacific, 91W has been designated over here. However, we do not expect anything to come by from the system, and thus have given it a big fat 0 on the formation chances through the next 5 days. 93B was designated over in the North Indian Ocean, which we have given a 10% chance of formation due to recent imagery of the system looking favourable at best, but its close proximity to land is what we feel is hindering its development. Down south, things have been quiet for a while, and this is not expected to change anytime soon. Hopefully, we've seen the last of activity from this brutal season. Animations are coming soon, stay tuned. Saying that, it's all quiet down under as well, as nothing is active in this part of the world. Hopefully the season here has finished, it's all done, we're not receiving any more until later on. However, the southern Pacific is not quite done yet, as Tropical Storm Gina slowly makes its way through Vanuatu. However, after Gina, who knows what's going to happen in the future? Hopefully, the season comes to a close. Jumping into satellite views now, and there is general thunderstorm activity down by Central America as well as in the Caribbean. Other than that, not really a lot to report on elsewhere over here. However, the Eastern Pacific remains largely clouded over quite spectacularly, if you ask me, in this satellite imagery that you're seeing right about now. Thunderstorm activity continuing near the equatorial region of this part of the world. Over on the other side of the Pacific, 91W is barely visible on satellite, and, well, really there isn't a lot to look at with this system. Elsewhere, nothing tropical is ongoing. This basin remains quiet for the time being. Who knows what's going to happen. 93B looking favourable for development at best in the Indian Ocean. However, its low chance is due to its close proximity to land, and thus we have slapped a 10% chance over here. The rest of the North Indian Ocean looking pretty quiet. The Australian region is returning to quiet times, as nothing is happening here. There's not even a drop of rainfall, minus the part of what you're seeing in New South Wales and bordering on Victoria there. However, in the tropics, there's not a drop of rain at all. This region, does not look to be ready to produce another system anytime soon, let alone within the next 5 days. Tropical Storm Gina is visible here near Vanuatu and is expected to pass through that region before curving southeast. More on that in just a moment. Here is a closer look at Tropical Storm Gina with a current wind speed of 40 miles an hour, a central pressure of 1,004 millibars with no CDPS rating as of now due to the system's forecast track taking it close to land. However, by this point it would have weakened down to a tropical depression. However, on this map it is, as of now, currently a category 1 on the Australian scale, which is what you're seeing here. Again, this system will continue its southwesterly track before curving to the east and dissipating towards the east of New Caledonia. On to the sea surface temperatures, the West Pacific still remains largely 28 to 29 degrees with some 30-degree temperatures visible in isolated areas. The Bay of Bengal piping hot with temperatures registering 29 to 30 degrees Celsius. The Arabian Sea registering 28 to 29 degrees. The tropical Atlantic is warming up with 27 to 28 degree waters. Tropical Eastern Pacific remains with largely 26 degrees and warming the further east you go. However, the La Nina remains pretty prevalent around the equator of this part of the world, and it just looks really stunning. The Central Pacific is registering 26 degrees, however, is also slightly affected by the La Nina, and the northern coast of Australia reaching temperatures of around 28 degrees Celsius. The Southwest Indian Ocean cooling off with temperatures of around 27 degrees Celsius. Onto the sea surface temperature anomalies now. The Eastern and Central Pacific remain mostly below average due to the La Nina that's currently in effect. It looks quite mesmerizing, if you ask me again. The west coast of Mexico still remains above average. Like I just mentioned, the La Nina is still in full swing, extending over into the Western Pacific pretty much as well. The Atlantic also remains pretty much above with a slight pocket of cooler degree temperatures in the subtropics of the Atlantic. The Western Pacific also largely warmer than average, however the La Nina still creeping in on this basin. The Bay of Bengal also remains mostly above average, some of it remains below average. You can blame Cyclone Asani for that. The Arabian Sea below also gets a bit also below average is what I'm trying to say, but it gets to be above average the further north you go. And finally, the Southwest Indian Ocean also remains mostly above, and the South Pacific also remains above average. Oceanic heat content remains pretty low in the Atlantic for the time being, with small blips here and there, especially around the Caribbean, as well as the main development region having some energy in it as well, but not an awful lot of energy here. As well as the entire Pacific, starting over with the eastern side, just having one small blob of energy, but compared to the Western Pacific, it's really just dwarfed in comparison right about by the amount of heat energy present here. Just look at the amount of red here compared to the Eastern Pacific here. It's really quite saddening, if you ask me. On this day in 2007, the only thing active was Typhoon U2, which peaked today as a Category 4 equivalent, just shy of Super Typhoon status. And that brings us over to the next naming lists. The first name up in the Atlantic is Alex, followed by Bonnie. First up in the First up in the Eastern Pacific, I should mention, is Agatha, and in the Central Pacific is Hone. Just forgive me, I got a bit too excited here. First up in the Western Pacific is Chaba. Actually, we had Malakas ages ago, that's why it's colored red. Chaba followed by Eri. I need to go to bed. And up next in the North Indian Ocean is Sitrang, followed by Mandoose. Up next in the Australian region, we have Darien, followed by Ellie. Up next in the Southwest Indian Ocean is Latlama, followed by My Pillow, but we may not be seeing any of those names. Up next in the South Pacific is Hale, followed by Irene. That's all for me for now for this Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll see you for another Tropical Weather Bulletin tomorrow night.